Hey guys, so this week is my wedding anniversary and I thought it might be fun to share with you how we made our wedding more environmentally friendly and what I would have done differently if I was doing it again. So I hope you find this video interesting, and if you're planning a wedding or another big event, that you find it helpful. So we got married 4 years ago, and we got married in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And even though we were living in Vancouver, we decided to get married in Edmonton because that was the city that we grew up in. The majority of our family members still live there. We had a lot of friends there. So it meant that overall, for all of the guests, there would be less travel. And it did make it a little bit more difficult just in terms of planning wise, like trying to plan a wedding in a city that you don't live in. But we're lucky to have really great friends and family that helped us out. Travel is obviously a huge environmental impact, especially if people have to fly in and are driving from different places. So we tried to cut down on travel as best as we could. So finding a location was the first thing that we were focused on. And we wanted a location that we could have the ceremony and the reception, again, so there would be minimal travel between the two. And I also really wanted a place that looked really nice so that we would have minimal decorating to do. So we looked at different kinds of historical buildings and also gardens and outdoor areas, and we ended up renting this cabin which was kind of on the outskirts of the city. There was a bit of farmland and forest around it, which was really cool because I knew that we were going to have a fairly rustic DIY style kind of wedding. We also knew that we wanted to keep our wedding small for budget reasons. It cuts down on the environmental impact of a bunch of people traveling there. And we've always just felt that we wanted only our closest family members and friends there and not a bunch of random people that we barely knew. We did send out invitations, but we had people RSVP online so that there wouldn't be anything to send back or extra paper and envelopes. But if I were to do it again, I think I would just do the whole thing online, do some really nice video or cool animation and just send that out to people and have them RSVP back online. So food is something that was really important to us and was our next big focus because we love eating, we love good food, and also we really wanted to have a vegetarian and vegan buffet for our friends and family. Especially growing up in Alberta, Canada, it's known for its beef. Most of our family members and quite a lot of our friends are really big meat eaters, haven't had a lot of vegetarian food, and we thought it would be a really nice way to introduce them to some really great vegetarian and vegan food. We definitely did get a little bit of pushback from people who were kind of unsure about it, and of course making jokes about there being no meat and that kind of stuff. But the food ended up being really good, and removing meat from a meal is obviously a really great way to reduce the environmental impact. And if I would do it again, I would actually also specifically look for a caterer that really focuses on local foods and organic foods. We basically just found someone that could do vegetarian and vegan foods and didn't think so much about supporting local farmers and that kind of stuff. But that's something that I definitely would do if I was planning it again. We also decided not to go with a wedding cake, mainly because they're very expensive, I think, for what you get. And we wanted a variety of desserts. So we had some vegan desserts, we had cupcakes and different fruit things and cakes and that kind of stuff, which I thought worked out really well. And again, people could try a variety of things, try some vegan desserts. For drinks, we did have some organic wine, which we served with the meal. And then we had a loonie bar where there were some cocktails and we had beers and that kind of stuff. Oh, and a loonie is $1. That's just what we call the dollar coin in Canada. But the reason that we decided to do a pay bar instead of an open bar is because I've just kind of noticed in other weddings that if there's an open bar, there tends to be a lot of glasses left around and half-drunk drinks. And I don't know, I feel like if people pay a little bit for their drink, then they become a bit more responsible with it and they finish it and they'll bring it back to the bar, and you can often refill the glasses. So I don't know, it was just something that I felt like if we had a pay bar, then there would be less waste overall in terms of drinks, and maybe that works, maybe doesn't. It seemed like there weren't a lot of drinks just lying around. And all the money from the bar went to the David Suzuki Foundation, which is one of my favorite environmental charities. They do amazing work around conservation and lobbying the government for various things, fighting oil and pipelines and all kinds of stuff. So that was sort of our solution to cutting down waste with drinks and a bunch of glasses lying around, and also being able to to give to one of our favorite charities. So my dress I made myself, and I specifically wanted something shorter that was about knee length, and I designed it so that it could be worn again. And my idea was that after the wedding I could dye it a color. I was thinking like a really nice indigo blue, and then I could wear it to other events and parties and formal occasions. And this ended up being a bit of a fail because at the time I made my dress, I was in school and it was really stressful and I had a lot going on and I was smaller than I typically am. So I made the dress to fit me perfectly at that time, and it had a super fitted tight bodice. And then by the time the wedding came around, it was really tight. I could still get it on, and I knew that I wanted to wear it for the ceremony and some photos, but that I wouldn't be comfortable eating and dancing in it. So I ended up having to get a second dress, which is not at all environmentally friendly, but I tried to choose something that I would wear again. And I do still have that dress, and I have worn it on occasion to different events, which is nice. But yeah, having two dresses was not at all what I intended. So if I did it again, I definitely would make a dress that would fit me better, and that also would be a bit more wearable. Even though I did want the dress to be wearable, it still is pretty formal. Even if it was dyed, I don't know how often I would actually wear it. So I think I would keep that in mind a bit more when designing the dress. And then I would also try to make it from upcycled materials, either another wedding dress, which I think would be really cool. I love the idea of heirloom dresses where people take their mother's dress and make it into a new dress and that kind of stuff. I also made a little birdcage veil to go with my first dress and a little hairpiece to go with my second dress. And again, I think it would be cool to use upcycled materials for those. For the bridesmaids dresses, I think it's always good to have something that they're actually going to wear again. So I basically gave them some color options, and then they could just find a dress that they liked. And I really like the idea of mismatched bridesmaids dresses. And we had a pretty colorful color palette anyways, so there were a lot of different color options that they could find something for. I didn't want an engagement ring and instead wanted to spend the money on some nice wedding rings, and we had our wedding rings custom made for us. I talk about them in my eco and ethical jewelry video. They were made from gold, which was given to us by our parents, and mine was cast into a mold made from a real twig, and my husband's was carved to look similar. And I absolutely love these rings. I'm so happy with them. I think it's just so special. My makeup I did myself, and I had my hair done at a salon, and I wanted to do my makeup myself because I just don't like wearing a lot of makeup, and oftentimes makeup artists can put too much makeup on, and I just knew that I wanted something fairly simple and clean, so I figured I might as well do it myself. If I were to do it again, I probably would get my makeup done by someone who specializes in natural and cruelty-free cosmetics. At the time we got married, I wasn't super into natural cosmetics yet. I would definitely try to look for cruelty-free options, but I wasn't really knowledgeable about green beauty, and I think it would be really cool to work with a makeup artist that does that. So the flowers we used were actually grown in my mother-in-law's garden, and then we bought a few roses, I think, to add to them. And that was something that was just really special to us. It was amazing that we could have flowers right out of her garden, but it was a little complicated and did cause some, I guess, unnecessary stress maybe. I know that my mother-in-law was pretty stressed out in terms of making sure that the flowers grew nice and that there were enough of them. And I mean, she does a lot of gardening, but I think it maybe wasn't so good to put her through that stress because she really wanted them to turn out really nice. And I absolutely love that she grew those for us, but I think it might be better to just find a local flower grower. It also meant that we had to put together the bouquets ourselves, and that was interesting. I mean, I wanted them to be kind of wild and rustic anyways, so I didn't really mind if they looked kind of jumbled and DIY, but I didn't realize that certain flowers will wilt faster than others, and you have to make sure that they're all cut exactly the same amount so they're all sitting in the water. So we did have a few flowers kind of wilt on us throughout the day, but that was fine. We just pulled them out and kept on going. So, I mean, this wedding was pretty casual, and we used my bouquet and my bridesmaids' bouquets as decoration on the table, so that was really nice. We kind of carried them around at the beginning and then put them into jars on the table for decoration, so they kind of were multi-purpose, double-duty flowers, I guess. And then we had a few flower arrangements around on the tables and outside, but not a ton of them. And for the rest of the decorations, so like I mentioned, I wanted to find a place that required minimal decorating. We decided to do the ceremony outside so that we would have trees and grass around, and it wasn't the most picturesque location for the ceremony, but we did make a paper flower backdrop to go behind us for the ceremony. And we did have a few helium balloons, which I would not use again because they're just not good. And then just a few flowers around, but pretty minimal in general. And we also planned that we would move the backdrop and the balloons indoors after the ceremony. So again, decoration that can be in two places. Our table decorations were pretty simple. We used jars and candles, a few flowers, and we collected some interesting stuff from thrift stores. And we also collected different glass containers that we could put candles in. You can find really amazing wedding decorations at thrift stores. If I were to do it again though, I'd probably keep it even simpler and just do some candles and maybe a nice potted herb that guests could take home with them. One of the few proper wedding things that we did have were chair covers, which we ended up renting. And I think it's always good if you can rent something instead of buying it. And we just wanted to do that because the chairs that they had at the venue weren't all that nice. So some other things we did were we borrowed some lawn games from friends and family. So that was just a fun activity, again, without us needing to buy things. We also decided to get a photo booth, and that was a lot of fun. And we thought that would be nice in lieu of a favor or a little gift so people could take home their photo booth photos. So for gifts, this was something that I think is a little bit controversial because we had already been living together. We had all kinds of stuff. I really didn't want more stuff. And even if we did a registry, I don't know how much stuff we actually would have wanted for our place. So we ended up asking guests for money for our honeymoon trip. And asking for money is definitely kind of a weird thing. And I don't know, but really we just didn't want more stuff, and we basically kind of explained that on our wedding website that we put together, basically saying we don't even really want gifts, but if you want to give us something, travel is something that we absolutely love, and if you'd like to contribute to our honeymoon, that would be incredible. And it was actually amazing because we ended up having this incredible honeymoon, and that to me was so much more valuable and special than getting more kitchen things and other things. So even though it's kind of weird to ask for money, and I know people have very different views on that, for us it just made so much more sense to have people contribute to our honeymoon than give us things that we didn't really want. For photography, we hired these amazing photographers called Ryan and Beth, and they've taken all of these photos that have been appearing, and they were incredible. They do film and digital photography, which is really awesome. I love film photography. I think it looks amazing, and it's also just a really cool and interesting process. The photos turned out wonderful, and they're so special. The one thing I do regret, though, is not also hiring a videographer, because I do think it would be pretty nice to have a video from our wedding. At the time, we were just sort of thinking about photography, and I wasn't even really thinking about video, but now having done a lot more filming and video things, I do think it would be nice to have a video from the wedding. But I absolutely love the photos, and they're so nice to look back on. So I think that covers most of the things that were involved in our wedding and how we tried to make it more eco-friendly. The biggest things were just kind of cutting down on travel, cutting down on waste, cutting down on extra stuff that we would then have to sell or give away or get rid of. Oh, that's something else that I also didn't mention, but we tried to buy things secondhand or used where possible, and also give away or sell our stuff to other people that were having weddings so that it would get reused and nothing was just purchased and then ended up in storage or thrown away. But yeah, I hope you guys found this video interesting and maybe it's helpful to you if you're planning a wedding. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I know everyone takes quite a different approach. And I think it'd be great to hear your guys' thoughts on making events greener and wedding planning and event planning and sustainability, because I guess obviously probably just eloping would be the most sustainable way to have a wedding, but for us, we really wanted to have a party with our friends and family, and I know a lot of people feel the same way. So I think there definitely are things that you can do to make events a lot greener, and these were some of the things that we did, and I would love to hear if you have any other tips. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.